From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. We are back, episode 116, and I am proud to introduce our next guest. He really doesn't need much of an introduction. He was just with us, I think, in April, early May, I think it was, right? But we have some royalty, some 5A royalty in the house. The head women's soccer coach of the reigning 5A girls champions, Frisco Wakeland Wolverines, Coach Jimmie Lankford. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. So it's awesome to be here. Always have a good time here.
Hey, man, I'm doing almost as great as that background you got there. I see a couple of beautiful scarves back there. That's awesome. I see you sporting those. Thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
Hey, thank you for being here. It's Monday noon. We're going to talk to all kinds of soccer. We're going to talk about this morning, all kinds of crazy stuff, chaos going on in the
Good time of the year for soccer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we dive into all of that, Coach, how are things?
That's going really well. You know, summer's busy. I'm kind of getting our plan ready for next year. You know, we're doing open camps, open fields for our kids, and just kind of refresh, recharge. And I was talking to my assistant coach this morning. We're kind of ready to get back at it, get back into routine, and start that campaign again.
Yeah, awesome. Have you had a little bit of downtime in there? Some vacation time?
We have. You know, seen the grandkids, did a little bit of travel, and a lot of time just at home and just kind of recharging.
Yeah. Good. Awesome. Well, hey, we'll talk about, we know you got another trip coming up soon. We're going to talk about that in today's show a little bit later, but a lot of stuff going on today's show. You know, we're going to talk about everything from international soccer, the Euros, Copa, U.S. men's national team talk. We're going to talk about your program, Coach. We're going to talk about Texas high school soccer at large, and then some of the awesome things you got going on with both TASCO as well as TGCA. And an upcoming clinic as well. So we're looking forward to all of that. A reminder, make sure you like, rate, subscribe, join us. You can join us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, the 50_50 podcast. Hit the subscription on there. You can hit that bell. We go live. Everything we do, just about everything we do, about 99% of everything we do is live. So make sure you sign up for that. You won't want to miss that. We're definitely trying to grow that YouTube page. So make sure and hit those likes on these videos as well, because that just increases our viewership in terms of the algorithms as far as YouTube as well as on Twitter, etc. So again, a reminder, you can find us on Twitter X, Twix as we call it here. Excuse me, at 50_50 podcast, as well as on Instagram. We are live on Instagram Live as we speak at 50_50 podcast. You can also find the audio version of all of our content, all episodes, wherever you subscribe, wherever you like to listen to your preferred podcast platform, as we call it, right? Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, what have you. Podbean is our host for this podcast as well. So get on there, make sure you subscribe, leave us a rating if you can. Excuse me, leave us a rating if you can. If you think we're great, tell us on there that we're great. If you think we stink, file all complaints with Coach Lankford. He heads up our complaint department, as we say, right? So I'm just kidding. But Coach, let's dive right in. Talked about a little bit about what's going on with you personally, your summer. But I mean, it's been a summer of incredible amount of soccer, right? Internationally, we got spoiled with both having the Euros and Copa America happening at the same time. Both finally wrapped up with interesting finals yesterday. First, let's talk. What has that been? Before we talk about the finals, let's talk about your thoughts on both tournaments, things that stood out to you, things you liked, things that got your attention, or that was just kind of the talk of your soccer circles.
Right. Yeah, the biggest contrast I really noticed we talked about was just the contrast of styles of the two different competitions. Just the way they go about their business. And, with some of them going overtime, some of them going straight to PKs. Just the differences was fun. Oh, what a great summer of soccer, though. My wife was like, soccer's on again. Can we ever get away from it? I'm like, no, not this year. It's kind of our preview for 2 years from now, some of the best teams in the world and younger players. And it's just been really fun to watch all these teams play and the levels that they play at, and some of the surprise teams and the youngsters that are playing and coming up, and just, which teams are getting better, which teams are not getting better, which teams have really bought into the youth movement, other teams that are bringing back the older players. It's been interesting. I think that transition from 2 years from now is really gonna show up in the World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the biggest single biggest contrast, would you say, that got your attention on the field? This is not, because off the field, we're going to discuss that too. But on the field, what was maybe the biggest contrast you saw in both competitions?
I think the combo ball in the earlier rounds was extremely physical. It was more of a physical game. To me, I enjoyed watching that. It seemed like the European and Europa was a little more of a skilled speed play. And I like a combination of both, but I think that was kind of a big contrast in that. I think that in the Copa, they knew they weren't going overtime, so they had to get it done, where some of the European teams kind of backed off a little bit and got into the overtimes. So I think that was a big difference I noticed. I think the officiating was a little different. I think some of it was a little tighter than others, and so I think it changed the way some of the teams played, or some of the teams that had players out for cards and different things.
Yeah. Now, did you get a chance to watch both finals yesterday?
I did.
Did you? Okay. Thoughts on excuse me, thoughts on the Euro final between Spain and England? Spoiler alert, at this point, everybody on earth should know, but Spain 2, England 1 is the final. Spain becomes the first country to win 4 European championships. Thoughts on the final?
I thought Spain, they're a dynamic team. They're young. They're really starting to come into their own. I thought they play a game that's tough to combat. The high press and just the movement and the way they play is just it kind of puts together that whole Spanish style of soccer. We're going to take away what you want to do. And I thought England played really well for England. I mean, they have had trouble getting to that point over the last few years. And I thought they did a really good job of taking away some of what Spain wanted to do, and had chances to win it at the end all through the game. So it was really, for me, a fun game to watch as a fan of both teams, to watch and see how they did. Yeah. I thought that the coaching was outstanding in both games as well.
Yeah, it was interesting. You kind of had the feeling that at any given point, England was very much in the match, but you kind of had the feeling that at any given point, Spain could kind of hit another gear that England to have a chance was going to have to play pretty flawlessly. And I thought that first half they were pretty solid. Probably the best half I had seen from them. Second half, you started to see the legs, right? But credit to Southgate, Gareth Southgate, who is not what he's really been known for, right? At least in England, he had some pretty strategic substitutions, that made an immediate impact once again. So, credit to them, credit to his call on that. And that was part of the initial difference, the response after Spain's first goal. But then you could see the pressure mounting, and Spain was able to get the game winner with, I think, what was it, like 4 minutes left in regulation? I think it was. So.
Yeah, that header save off the line by Spain at the end was, oh man, it's like, wow, that's what you call defending.
Yeah. Did you see the angle shot from behind the goal of him sending it back, the header on the goal line? I don't know. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, the picture of that is amazing. That was I thought for sure England was going to have the equalizer there, but no such luck, unfortunately. So great final there. Spain still incredible, so incredibly young at that. And I tweeted something out yesterday talking about how they are right now the world's true, you can say it on a certain level, Argentina on the men's side, I get it, but Spain is the true kind of, in my opinion, the true superpower on both sides of the house right now, just in terms of what the amount of World Cup titles and now the European title on both the men's and women's side, what they've been able to do as far as at the various levels, their U17s, their U20s, their women's, and now their women's senior team, now their men's senior team. So pretty fascinating in terms of what they're doing there and how they're doing it, right? So speaks to a lot of system there as well. So, and
Yeah, if
then
you look at their whole model they have going for their
yeah,
national teams from the U12s, you watch those little Super Copa teams that are playing to the 14s and 16s, and both boys and girls. I mean, it's just incredible how they
yeah,
develop kids and how they develop programs to get to that level. And they're starting to get younger and younger. Just shows you that the development's really working.
yeah, yeah. And then the nightcap that started almost an hour and a half later than it was supposed to. We'll get into reasons for
Yeah.
that after. But final Copa America final, Argentina and Colombia. Colombia coming in on what was a 28 match unbeaten streak. Ironically, the last time they had lost was, I believe, about almost 2.5 years ago to Argentina. Kind of the initial background story that I was hoping wouldn't become a story was the last match that Colombia had lost was to Argentina, and of course, and it was the same official that they had going into last night's match. So I was hoping that wouldn't become an issue somehow, and luckily it wasn't. But this match was, in my opinion, I thought it was a battle of attrition, very ugly match for a number of reasons. But I think so much of the match itself was just it was dwarfed by just the security and the safety and everything happening off the field. But in
Of
terms
course.
of the match itself, Argentina wins it 1-0 with a late winner in extra time. This one had to go to extra time. And I had a feeling, I had called it, one of my buddies I was talking with, I had mentioned to him early, somewhere right around the 100th minute. So they were in the first extra time period. And he kept saying, multiple people were saying, hey, this is going to penalties. And I said, I don't think so. I said, I see the battle of attrition. The legs were getting heavy. Every time there was a natural stoppage in the game, somebody was on the ground. You could tell the legs were, and in typical fashion, finals are pretty ugly, right? But
Well,
you could tell that I had a feeling it was going to come down to one great play, or more importantly, probably one simple mistake that was going to make the difference in that last 15 minutes. And that turned out to be the case. Argentina wins it 1-0, and they, along with Spain, become the first team to win, I guess, 3 in a row, kind of a sandwich dynasty between Euros, World Cup, and now I should say Copa America, World Cup and Copa America. Spain doing the same thing in 2008, 2010, 2012. Your thoughts on this one, Coach?
It was an interesting game to me. Like I said, I agree with you. It came down to the attrition. It just makes you wonder how much that, they go out and start to warm up, and then they have to go in for an hour and then come back and re-warm up again. A lot of the nutrition and stuff they do is to get ready for that start time. So it changed a little bit, and it changed the mentality. And then it gets a little bit later, and just the emotions of going up and down. I think it kind of showed in the first part of the game. Both teams looked a little shaky.
Mm-hmm.
I know I texted my assistant coach. I said, man, our team looks – I said solid, but I meant shaky. They looked shaky at first. And I was pretty impressed. I mean, they managed to get through that first 10, 15 minutes and kind of calm down. And I agree. The players look tired, and I think it's a lot of games in a short period of time for those guys in this heat. I don't know how much the field had a difference, but I think to me it looked like when Messi got hurt, he kind of just planted to make it, and I don't know if the grass shifted or what, but to roll your ankle on that was just a little. To me, it just kind of made me wonder: was the field in a rough shape? Did it create some of the issues with the cramping and stuff? If it was too soft, I know a lot of times we play here at Toyota, that field is soft, and our kids have leg issues because they're not used to that soft surface.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much that had to do with it. And then, and it was a back and forth game. It was kind of fun to watch for me because I love that coaching tactics of how do you counterattack? How do you press? What do you do when you press, that counter press? So that was fun for me to watch in the coaching part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought Colombia had a very good first half. Really set the tone first, probably 20 minutes, clearly established that they were going to come after Argentina, weren't afraid of them whatsoever. They didn't execute. I think they had five? I think they had 5 shots on goal, 5 attempts first half, and nothing through the second half. You started to see the legs start to wear for both teams, but especially for Colombia. And then you started seeing with the substitution patterns. Of course, Messi had to come out because of the injury, but James Rodriguez having to come out, and some of their key players having to come out, Luis Diaz having to come out. So, and when he did that, and unfortunately, when Colombia's coach had to do that with penalties in mind, the moment Argentina got the goal, now he was missing key portions of his attack as well to try to get that goal back when they were chasing the game. So interesting. From Messi's perspective, the injury, I think there was a lot of speculation. There's a video circulating out there about earlier in the match, right? When he got rolled up on, there was a video footage of his foot planting very awkwardly, right?
Yeah, down on the goal line.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on, this was like the one where he went down for good was just kind of the finishing piece. And so first of all, in terms of the field itself, my understanding was it had just been resurfaced, new grass had just been installed 6 days earlier from a concert that Hard Rock Stadium had hosted. So that was one issue. At halftime, they run the water, right? They run the sprinklers for the grass on top of turf field, but you get this extended halftime too, right? So with a concert going on, and then so they probably ran the water longer than they probably should have, and then so that played a factor in terms of the sponginess. And so who knows?
The first 5 minutes you see them sliding and slipping and no grip. It's just like
hard to say. So on that one, and that leads us to, the whole just debacle, right? The whole disaster that was, the writing was on the wall with what you saw in the Colombia-Uruguay match semifinal, right, in Charlotte a few days ago. CONMEBOL, so, and for a lot of people who don't know, putting exclusive blame on the U.S. or Hard Rock Stadium. CONMEBOL was calling the shots here, right? The Confederation for South America.
Right.
So, and the backstory to that was back in you didn't see these problems back in 2016 when we hosted the Copa America Centenario, because, right, the U.S. was overseeing everything at all facilities, right? CONMEBOL this time, the way the story goes was CONMEBOL, there was a lot of bad feelings in place because CONMEBOL realized they left over 100 million on the table that the U.S. pocketed, right? U.S. Soccer Federation pocketed by hosting the tournament. So this time around, 2024, they said, it's like, hey, yes, we'll have it in America. We'll collaborate with you all, but we're going to run it, we being CONMEBOL. So you saw massive differences in terms of security procedures, ticketing procedures, everything, safety precautions. So from the stadium perspective itself, right, and the field perspective, 100% on us, on the U.S. The surrounding aspects, procedures, protocol, how entry into Hard Rock Stadium itself, that was dictated by CONMEBOL in conjunction with, I guess, Hard Rock Stadium security and the, I guess, my Greater Miami PD. Thoughts on just that whole? It was an absolute disaster just an utter disaster. There's no other real way to put it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's what. But it just goes to show the passion of the fans. I wish we had more of that with the U.S. fans. More of that just passion. But sometimes that passion leads to things that shouldn't happen. And I think the oversight of that, they didn't realize, that game is a very passionate game. They've been playing for years and years and years. And those fans they're rabid about their teams. And I think they missed out on putting multiple layers of security. They had to go through a couple different layers before they got to the gate. And the crowd mentality, once one person starts, it's one of those things. It's like a wave. It starts. It's tough to stop. Yeah. I think they did a decent job of getting it stopped, but then they still had a lot of people get in that probably shouldn't have been in. But unfortunately, it didn't carry over into the game or the stands once the game started like it had in previous games. Yeah. I think they maybe have learned, but hopefully the U.S. and Mexico and Canada have learned from it. So when the World Cup comes here, that those things are in place, and things happen for a reason. So hopefully it'll teach us something and it won't happen again in 2 years.
Yeah, it was very much. And unfortunately, it kind of leaves the U.S. itself holding the bag, right, in terms of it's 100% their fault. They can't host big events. They shouldn't host the 2026 World Cup. and nothing could be further from the truth. Is some of it on U.S. committee, U.S. members, they're involved in the tournament? Absolutely, no, without a doubt. CONCACAF as well, our governing confederation as well, but the fact that it happened on U.S. soil, that's the unfortunate piece, right?
Right.
So lots of lessons have to be learned. Very fortunate, very lucky. I think all of us that something tragic didn't come out of yesterday, because I thought everything I was seeing, I thought that's where it was headed, right? The writing was on the wall potentially.
Sure seemed like it.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. And our last one, Coach, in terms of this summer of soccer, the great drama the great novela that is the U.S. men's national team. Thoughts on just from their performance in the Copa America to, Greg Berhalter, who's no longer the head coach, and where they're going next, who you'd like to see and who you think they'll get. Two different things. Let's talk about it. Thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of watched when I started watching them, even in warm-ups before their games. I was concerned. I just feel like there was a lot of lack of accountability just from warm-ups to how they played to the training, and I think that it was not a work that just happened. It's over years and years and years, and a lot of things that happened created some issues within the coaching staff that they couldn't do what they needed to because of accountability issues or different things. It's a lot of things happen, and I think the strength of the coach is the coach has to just determine what the team's going to do. It can't be the team determine what the team does. The coach has to set the tone. The coach sets that play. And if they're not allowed to do that, then it's kind of like the Indians running the camp rather than somebody in charge. And when you get to that point, it becomes difficult for the team to play as a team because there's so many different opinions, and then there's doubt when things happen. And I was a little concerned about that. And it showed in warm-ups. It showed in the way they played. And the players played hard, but there was just no style of play. There was no sense of this is how we're going to play. This is what we're going to do. It was a lot of individuals. And to me, that concerned me because to play at this level, the margins are so small that you can't have the little mistakes. You have to be on the same page from back to front, all 11 players and the players that come off the bench and the coaching staff. That all has to be on the same page, and I think we lack that. And it's not for lack of talent. I think it's just a lack of cohesiveness from top to bottom, from the federation all the way down through the youth programs on how we put together teams and how we play. And I think we'll learn from it, and I hope that they'll put a coach in place that's willing to come in and say, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to play. Either you get on board or we'll find somebody that will. And I think the better players are looking for that. They want that. They want somebody that comes in and says, this is what we're going to do. And you look at the best teams in the world, their coaches are like that. They set the tone, and then the players take it and run with it. And that's why they're successful, because everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, this next hire, and going back to their performance, obviously did under expectations, of course, obviously getting grouped. But yeah, I think the fact that it was that much of a debate in terms of should, you never want for a coach, you never want to cheer for someone to lose their job, right? But the unfortunate piece was I gave Greg Berhalter credit from the standpoint of I think he did his job in terms of what he was truly initially hired for, right? And I think it went its course in that first cycle, right after the 22 World Cup in Qatar. And then there's the whole drama. There's just baggage that comes with it. He isn't the coach for what I think about 7-8 months, and then he's rehired, which I think there was already issues with him being hired the first time, right? In terms of nepotism, all of that with his brother regarding the federation. But then really, I think in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of people, should have never been rehired, right? So that was the first. So now we're adding layers to it, drama and history, and the team just never responded to him in that second cycle, which in his defense is not totally uncommon in international soccer, right? Which is why you'll see a lot of coaches do one cycle, right, at the international level. So from that perspective, I just felt like, yes, they were underperforming. It started with just, in my opinion, it started really with I can't remember which one came first. If it was the Jamaica semifinal or the Germany, right? The Germany friendly, but somewhere in there is where it really just started to pick up steam. And it's wish him the best, thank him for what he's done. But now it's time. I think this is a critical period, right? These next less than 2 years. I think we're inside of like 695 days now before the World Cup begins. So this next hire is probably the most critical one in the history of the men's program, right? The federation has shown that when they're willing to and they really want to, get down to it, they'll go after a top high quality coach on the women's side. Emma Hayes, the head coach for the U.S. women's national team, largely regarded as the best coach in the game, in the women's game. So that's not to say it's not impossible on the men's side. It's just going to be a matter of who are they willing to go after and who's willing to take this job, given the circumstances. There was a lot of talk about Klopp, which I think would have been the dream. I never saw that one happening. But the question is, who will it be? Your thoughts, and anybody, who do you like the most versus who do you think it'll be?
I go back and I look at there's a lot of really good coaches out there. I think we need to get away from somebody that's in the system right now, just because the impact of going in the system, and there's always going to be that doubt. They need to bring somebody with fresh ideas, with the ability to stand up and say, this is what we're doing. And I think there's a couple of really good candidates. I know they're talking about Tab Ramos and some of those, but I think it needs to be somebody that's just a little bit outside the system, that they have to give them free reign. And if they're not willing to let somebody come in here and have free reign, then it's kind of just running that circle around the program. I know there's a couple of South American coaches that are really good, that would be good there. And they were talking about the other day, they need somebody that speaks good English. No, we need somebody that can coach soccer. We can fix those other things. And that frustrated me because, go out, get a good coach, pay for that coach, and get them in here and let them do their thing and really teach these kids how to play the European game and the South American game, because we have to get through both those sets of styles of play to be able to be a powerhouse. And I think we have players that can do that. It's just somebody's got to put that in place.
Yeah, the interesting piece is both coaches, there's different stories going out there, but both coaches that coached in that European final yesterday, could potentially be linked to the men's program, right? The U.S. men's national team. So Luis de la Fuente, I have no idea what his contract status is, but right after the Euro final, reports start to come out that his representatives have reached out. Did you see that? Have reached out to the U.S. Soccer Federation?
I did see that, and
yeah,
he's that kind of coach. He'll come in and get done what needs to be done, and that report kind of made me think maybe they really are looking at revamping the whole system and putting somebody in place that can to get them to that level that's not going to be tied to the politics of it, but just let me go be the coach. Let me do this. Yeah. And I think that's important. And I think either one of those I heard that either one of those I think would be excellent choices.
Yeah, Gareth Southgate, I think, is going to be a matter of his contract. I think expires at the end of the year officially, right. But I think it's going to be a matter of what does he want to do? It sounds like the English FA will entertain keeping him either as the coach or, if not, keeping him as part of the FA somehow. Right. But I don't know. There's a lot of people that feel that he might be done. But then again, there's a lot of people linking him to that this might be the time for him to go get a club job, right? The international game. So interesting to see.
Saudi Arabia may be chasing him.
Yeah. Interesting to see. I agree with you. It cannot be an MLS guy right now. I think Steve Cherundolo, is going to be a great coach. I just don't think his time is there yet. Wilfred Nancy, I don't think is just his time yet, right? Either one of those are going to be great coaches. But in terms of what you have going up with a critical period of 2026, got to go after a different guy. And then I think just U.S. Soccer Federation just has to really start to distance himself from MLS. Way too close. So, but yeah. All right, Coach, we shift gears here. Now let's talk about you guys. Let's talk about the reigning champions, the Frisco Wakeland Wolverines. 4 titles now, Coach. Talk to us a little bit. So all our coaches that are listening out there, they kind of want to know. It's like, hey, obviously you have the talent, but coupled with great coaching. But what is it about the Wakeland way, that culture, that magic piece, that special ingredient that is leading to the success, not just the titles, but the consistency that you all have had, and you play in an incredibly tough district, in an incredibly tough region. What's that kind of that key piece in your opinion?
I think a lot of it comes down to our process. We have a very process that's pretty consistent through the years, and a lot of that process is just getting ready to play against our fellow Frisco teams. We have to be prepared. We can't just show up and play. And there's talent throughout the state now, and we involve the girls in a lot of that process. This is what we want. How do y'all want to accomplish it? They give us their what they would like to see in it, and then we put together the program. And it's that buy-in. It's a work in progress. It's dictated by the coaching staff, but it's really the process that they go through and say, okay, this is part of the process. This is how we like to go about it. I mean, the first thing the girls did this year after we won, our incoming seniors came into the office and they wanted to talk about off season as we're coming up. So we're still going to be in the weight room. We're still going to do this. Yes, we are. So when that happens, it really creates this sense of team and camaraderie that they want to be a part of that process. And when that process happens, it continues and continues and continues until they just buy in. And now they expect it to happen. And that continuity, when your incoming freshmen come in, they see it by the time they're into the varsity level or playing. It's just part of their DNA. And it's not about winning. It's about being successful and preparing to win. When you expect to win and you put the work in, then it happens. You can't just expect to win and walk out there and win, because everybody expects to win. But the process that puts you to that point, it really has to be consistent over the years, and you tweak it here and there. But once you create that consistency, then it just becomes a beast of its own. It just carries on and carries on and carries on. And then that belief happens when the players that come in, and you see the middle school kids and the elementary kids that are at camp, they want to be a part of the process. And so it just grows and grows and grows. And then other teams see it, and it's almost an intimidation factor. And I feel like sometimes we'll win a game before we even play, just because the way we enter the field, the way we warm up, the things that we do, the records we play, the people we play against. And, we have talent, but everybody has talent. And that talent, when they buy in, they play together from front to back and all 18. And our practices a lot of times are harder than our games.
Mm-hmm.
Just because our intensity is one of our focuses. Our focus this year is focus on practice and intensity and strength and speed. And we have a saying, so no haws. We don't want any haws, no half-asses. We go play everything every day. So we don't play a haw. If you want to be haw, then go somewhere else. But we're here to put everything into it. And, if you're going to go through the process, then go full out. Don't start it. Don't make it short, but really put the time and the effort in, because it pays off in the end. Will you always win every game? No. There's always going to be those times where it's not good enough. But if you put the effort and time in, you can be proud of that effort every time.
Yeah. No haws. I like that. I might have to steal that, Coach. Haws. I like that. Because I'm saying that all the time, so I might as well abbreviate it. And yeah, I'll give you credit. I'll give you royalties on that.
Okay.
So awesome. So you talked about the process. So clearly that's been the consistency piece, and that's what's remained the same the most in your program. But what over the course of the many years that you've been there, what would you say has changed the most in your time there, in your program?
It's probably more about the way I coach and how I put things together. I used to be, this is what we're doing, this is what we're running, we're going to run this formation, we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. And it's changed more to the fact that I look at who we have, the players we have, the skills we have, the speed we have, and everything. And then we put together a program that highlights those things as opposed to trying to force them into a system. So our systems have changed over the years, and that's probably me maturing as a coach, realizing it's more about that than it is doing what the system I'm comfortable in, because I was always a 4-4-2 guy, and it took me a little while to get used to the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1. But now we teach 3-5-2, 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2. We teach all those systems, and then we plug kids in at different times to fit those systems rather than – or or fit those systems for our kids rather than forcing a system on them. And it's tough for a kid that's playing club in 4-3-3 and force them into a 4-4-2 diamond when they're really not sure how to do it. So it's been an eye opener for me, and it's really changed the way I coach and how I do things.
Mm-hmm.
Is putting the system together to fit the kids you have. You're not going to run 4-3-3 if you're fasting kids at 5-5-40. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to bunker back and try to counter, but it's really looking at your program, looking at your kids, and putting them in a situation where they be successful based on the skill level and everything that they bring to the table.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned a little bit about your program, your returning seniors after winning state this year, but we talk about culture, we talk about tradition, and in a program like yours, where the expectation is to get to Georgetown, right, and to try to win state. How do you? But now you graduate talent, right? And so some of that championship experience, those winners, they're out the door now.
Right.
And now you have an incoming group again. Some of them, and some of them, or maybe they're just still younger, right? Underclassmen. But how do you get all of them, the collective, in terms of, how do you handle being the reigning champions, and how do you get them ready, and more importantly, kind of stay hungry for this year? Because winning it and then coming back after winning it are two different things.
Yeah, it's extremely hard, and we talk about it. We don't shove it under the table. We talk about it. It doesn't matter. We talk about every team we play. We're going to get their best game. They're going to play us because we are reigning champions, or we're Wakeland. We're going to get their best game. They're going to come out and put everything they can into that game to try to measure themselves against us. So we talk about it. We practice. We do things that put each other under pressure. So nothing ever happens really that we haven't talked about or prepared for. And I think that's important because they need to realize this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. We talk about what's going to happen if this person gets a card, or if this person is injured, or if this team shows up and they've got players that we're not rare with. So the preparation of handling things that are going to be extremely difficult, the stress of it, I think the more they understand that that's going to happen, then it doesn't affect them the same, because there's really nothing that happens that they haven't heard or talked about or going to be experiencing. And I think a lot of that has to do with they talk about it with each other. We talk about it with them. We do a lot of preparation and psychological. They're going to play you really hard. This is what they're going to do. How are you going to handle it? And we talk about feeling the temperature of every game. The first 5 minutes, feel the temperature of the game. What is it like? Is it combative? Is it physical? Is it fast? Is it skilled? Figure out the temperature of the game, and now we adjust to that temperature and take away what they want to do and do what we want to do.
Good deal. I like that. Your thoughts? Obviously, it's early. It's the summer, but you still kind of have a pretty good idea. Your initial thoughts on the team you have coming back this year?
It's pretty much we're going to miss a couple of seniors. Center back and our six were huge parts of what we did. With another center mid that we're really going to miss. And we had a huge underclass. Most of our players that started were sophomores and a freshman and a couple of juniors. But we're returning 95% of what we had last year. Some really talented players. We hope they have a couple of younger ones that will be able to replace those seniors and really take advantage of the time that they got last year.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them were injured, so they didn't quite get as much time. So it kind of forced our seniors to play a lot more minutes than we may have wanted. But I think they coming in, I think we're going to hit the ground running. I don't know that we skip a beat. We avoid injuries, but we're a very deep team, very talented team coming back. So it'll be fun to see how this group handles it and how they go forward. The district, our district changed a little bit. We picked up Highland Park in our district. It'll be fun to play against them twice a year in district.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, them or Reedy, we won't see them in the playoffs this year. They're probably more glad than we are, but they'll both go to a big school. We'll go to small school, but it'll be interesting to see how the playoffs come out this year. Our goal at the beginning of the year is to win district, make playoffs, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and I'm sure the rest of Region 2 and 5A is saying, great. Wakeland's the bulk of Wakeland's team were just sophomores this year. That's awesome. Myself included. Hey, I'm at the 5A level, but no, that's awesome. That's great. You just alluded to it, Coach. Shifting gears here. Division 1, Division 2, right? UIL comes in. makes probably the biggest change in our sport, since its inception in 1983. What do you feel? Or I wouldn't say that. Maybe since we went to 6A, right? Since we included 6A in 2014, because this was just 10 years from then. But definitely a huge shift, right? In terms, and you just talked about it. Because we did allude to that in a previous episode when this came down and we had our emergency podcast, and we talked about how, hey, you could have a situation where you could have, we'll just use the 5A as an example. You could have the Division 1 and Division 2 state champion potentially come out of the same district, right? Not impossible by any means. Your thoughts, big picture across the state in terms of Division 1 and Division 2.
I kind of saw the writing on the wall. They started talking about 7A and creating some different divisions. And I know, talking to UIL as much as 6 months ago, they're asking, what were our thoughts on a Division 1, Division 2. And honestly, if you really look at it across the nation, we probably have more teams in each region than a lot of states have in their entire state team-wise. So to create more opportunities for kids to win state championships, they say it waters it down, but you still got to get there. You still got to win 6 games in a row, and you're still playing great teams. It just creates more of an opportunity for other kids, other programs. At first I was pretty resistant to it. It's like, no, we're 5A. We want to win 5A. We want to beat all 128 teams or 256 teams in the region. But there's some really good teams don't get there every year. Some teams that really deserve to be there because they come up against a team that's really good, a Dripping Springs or a South Lake Carroll, but it'll create more opportunities for other players. And it really, the showcase is to showcase as many great players and great teams and great programs as we can. And I think this will do that, because I think you'll see the cream of the crop is still going to rise to the top. And I think, there'll be some dark horse teams that get in and don't have to play certain teams in that first or second round that may get in and get a little farther. And it'll be fun to see how it plays out. And then the next realignment, when they truly realign big school, small school, will be interesting. How that works out.
Yeah. It was kind of a rock and a hard place, damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because for years, and I know you've been hearing this, you had people screaming as to, hey, why is it that football can have Division 1, Division 2, but other sports can't, right? Now it's here for 5 more sports, and it's like, oh, we don't want it. It's going to water it down. That's like, and I think the cream is still going to rise to the top. Very, very well said. So, Coach, as long as you've been around, right? We're not going to date you as to how long you've been around, but biggest change in terms of Texas high school soccer, biggest change from when you started to now. What's been the biggest change in our sport?
The level of talent, the ability of the coaches. When I first started, I was a soccer guy when I first started coaching, and there was not a lot of soccer guys. There was a lot of other sport people coaching soccer. And I think that level of coaching has really changed in the past 26 years, date myself. But I also think the level of talent in the players has changed. Used to be, if you had 3 or 4 really, really good players, you're going to run the table and do a lot of good things. And I look back at some of the teams I had, and that was the case. We had, some really good players and a lot of role players and did really well. Well, now you've got to have 15 good players. I mean, it's tough to get through because of all the club soccer. The kids are developing. You go watch 12-year-old club games, and these kids can play, boys and girls sides. And it's really, the level has changed. And I think high school's done a pretty good job of hiring coaches that have kept up with that, so that the level of play in high school is very similar to the level in club. The concentration's less because we don't get to pick. We take the kids we get. Some of us get blessed and get great kids, and some of them get less. But the coaching, I think, across the board is gotten a lot better in high school over the years. And I think you're starting to see that now, a little bit less restrictions on kids playing club in high school. There's still a few that, don't want their kids to play high school, but I think they realize it's more of a camaraderie or a shared responsibility now than, oh, they're mine, they can't play. And I think there's a lot more communication. I know with me and my club coaches, a lot of my kids, we talk about it, say, hey, they got a tough weekend club this weekend, take it easy in high school. Hey, this is tough at high school, let's take it easy in club. And I think it's getting to be better and better. And I think that change is better for the kids.
Yeah, well said. There are three things I talk about RRC in terms of respect. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank here. But as it relates to our sport, right? We talk about, in your time, from what you've seen, do you feel like we have a larger, whether it's just the respect for the sport, the understanding of the sport, to say a bigger say at the table, right? Recognition, right? Respect, recognition, and coverage. Do you feel like those three have grown when it comes to Texas high school soccer in over the last maybe 5 to 10 years?
With programs like yours, yes, with a lot of those, I think still some of the mainstream media still doesn't quite get to where they need to be with the number of kids that participate and the level that we play at and the things that we do. I think there's some really good. David Hinojosa is a friend of mine. He does an absolutely outstanding job. I wish he was still in Dallas. But I think there's so much emphasis on basketball and football and baseball that I think a lot of times we don't get the focus that we should. You just look at the coverage in the newspapers and sometimes it's less, but I think it's getting better. And I think the more and more kids play, and I think the Copa here and then the World Cup coming, the last time the World Cup was here, you saw a huge jump in the coverage of soccer and the number of people playing. And I think the World Cup coming here in 26 will change that again. I think it's going to get to be where maybe we start to rival those top 3 or 4 sports professionally as well as in college and high school.
What will Texas high school soccer look like 5 years from now?
I think there'll be a 2A division, a 3A division. I think that more and more kids are playing. I think a lot of these schools are realizing soccer is a sport that's easy to have. It doesn't require a whole lot. You've already got fields, you've got goals, and there's more and more kids playing. And I think a lot of these other sports are starting to realize that soccer ties into football, ties into volleyball, because you create that coordination, that endurance, and that ability to move in different directions. And I think a lot more kids are going to play soccer as well because it's a grassroots sport that's really starting to take off. And I think the level is going to be, it's just going to get better and better and better to the point where, I think I really start to think that maybe the recruiting process will start to involve the high schools a little more because more and more kids are playing. It's a little easier season to come see rather than trying to catch these showcases and different things. At least that's my hope anyway.
Yeah, good. We're talking to Coach Jimmie Lankford, the head women's soccer coach of the Frisco Wakeland Wolverines, the reigning 5A women's soccer champions, and as well as the TASCO Region 2 director, right? You're officially the director now, right?
Yep, I am. When state was over, this will be my 4th stint at it. So you go from rookie to first assistant to director. So I'm the director this year.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about that, and talk to us a little bit about TASCO. We always have somebody listening that has heard of it, has seen it, doesn't quite know what it is, what it's about. Talk to us a little bit about those.
Yeah, Texas Association of Soccer Coaches is an organization of soccer coaches, and it's kind of evolved too. It's now starting to include middle school and private school coaches. It's just, to me, it's an extremely important organization for coaches. It gives coaches the ability to have somewhere to go for resources, to go to a clinic, to reach out to other coaches. I think there's not enough mentorship within the state of Texas on coaches and mentors, and young coaches need to have somewhere to go to just ask a question, because there's a lot of us that have been there, done that we're more than willing to help. And I think it's a lot of times soccer, everybody thinks it's a private little thing. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, but that's not true. These clinics, that there's so much you can learn, and a lot of it's about meeting other coaches and about that the process of talking to others and how they do things. And probably 80% of the stuff I do, I've stolen from other coaches or learned from other coaches. And I welcome the questions on how do you do this or how do you do that? And I think talking to some of these older coaches, they say, well, I don't go to clinics anymore because I don't learn anything. I said, well, then you need to be down there teaching. If you're not learning something, you need to be giving your information out to other people so they can learn from you. And every time I go, I learn something. And it could be something simple or something major. And we just went to a clinic 2 weeks ago in Midlothian that Austin Guest did, and the Waxahachie, and they had Randy Waldrum there, and they had Shellis there, and they're talking about processes and different things. And I thought, oh, wow, that's an awesome, just how they teach the game and how they talk to their players. I learned something. So it was an awesome deal. And I think it's important to get involved in your high school coaching associations, your Texas Girls Coaches Association, just for the ability to talk to other coaches or go to sessions where you may learn something, see somebody does something different. But just that whole relationship with other coaches is important. And it goes to do with coaching organizations all across the United States. I mean, it's important, I think, as coaches to be involved in those, just because of that. It gives you a place to go ask somebody, talk to somebody. And I think it's important, really important for young coaches to be involved, because they realize, you know what? Other people have gone through this and they have survived. I don't have to leave because some parents yelling at me or this or that. So it really is a good place to meet people and develop a mentorship or find somebody that you can talk to.
Yeah, well said. So you shift gears now from the assistant to the director role. Tell us a little bit about what that entails on a whatever daily, weekly, monthly basis, and then as well as the lead up to the convention. And tell us about the TASCO convention coming up in November.
Yeah, the region director is really it's more about involved in planning the convention and talking about those things. We're involved in the all state selection committees, the all-star game, and then working at the convention and making sure that everything goes well. Meeting the instructors or meeting the presenters and presenting them to the deal and being there to ask questions. So there's a whole planning process that goes involved. And as soon as the convention's over last year, we already started that process all the way through the state tournament. So a lot of things going on. Great leadership right now within TASCO. Our president and vice president and our past president are very much visionaries and have a great plan for what we're going forward. And this upcoming convention is going to be awesome. Some of the presenters that are coming in are really top-notch, top level, and they're really starting to get more high school coaches to come in and do it, the better coaches that really are not afraid to get in there and show what they do. And it's fun to watch that process. I know every time I present, I grow a little more, because it's pretty hard to get up there in front of your peers and show a session and you doubt, oh, they're going to think this is dumb. But then you get there, and then the support you feel, it's just awesome. And I think it's so important to be involved in your organizations, because they're advocates through UIL. They're advocates across the state for a lot of things that go on. And a lot of things that go behind the scenes are really supported by TASCO and these different coaching organizations.
Whenever I have a TASCO board member on here, I always like to ask the perspective of help people, because I'm always talking to coaches that, hey, I've never attended, or I haven't attended in a long time. Kind of give us a visual, paint a picture a little bit of the convention, of what it's like now, how much it's changed and what it's like now.
It's definitely different. I know I'm going back, date myself, back when we were in San Antonio, we would have their blossom, but you never knew. In November, there's times it was cold and snowing and windy and you had to punt and change. Now it's very much more a stable environment. You're inside for all of it, everything. You stay right there on the deal. I think the level of presenters, the partnership with United Soccer Coaches and having some of the top coaches in the nation and the world come in and present, a lot more variety in sessions, from the on-field sessions to the classroom sessions to the different software companies that come in and do stuff. I think it's really, there's something for everybody now, and you can make a weekend of it and really see some different sessions. I know I encourage that coaches, and I tell them all the time, I said, if there's something you want to see, send a note to TASCO and they'll try to get it done. I mean, if there's a session you want to see or somehow you want to see, send them a note, because we're constantly looking for ideas and different presenters, and we've come up with some really good presenters based on coaches saying, hey, this guy would really be good, and we call them, they're willing to do it, and say, yeah. So that's the biggest change, is just the level of presenters and the number of sessions and the number of coaches attending. It's over 1,000 now, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think my understanding was last year's convention was the most attended. Total attendance, I think, was somewhere in the vicinity of right around 1,100,
Right.
which is big. That doesn't necessarily sound like a lot when you're talking in terms of the likes of maybe coaching school, THSCA, where you're taking from obviously football and all kinds of sports across the state. This is just one sport. So this at the high school level, there is no doubt this is the largest coaches convention in the country, right? So it's up there, it's big, and it's growing. Having been a part of it now, having been a guest of TASCO's and covered it from the podcast perspective the last 2 years, I can tell you, I mean, this past year, the level, the quality of the level of clinicians and speakers that were at the convention were incredible. And I get to sit down and interview a bunch of them, right? Not all of them, not as many as I'd like, but still,
Right.
sometimes it comes down to scheduling, right? But one of them came up a couple episodes ago, right? Fred DeCranian from the International Soccer School. They just had that coaching symposium there up in I think, was it Arlington? I can't remember. I think it was Arlington, right?
Yep.
But being able to talk from, he's just one example. The International Soccer School based out of Florida, and just the conversations that we're having, what they're doing, and this is being, and then they're sharing their stuff, they're sharing their content with our high school coaches, which is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, and that's just one example. So many great coaches. I know we try to we can have college coaches out there, but you're right on one thing, Coach, is that I know if you're interested in a topic, if you're interested in a guest or topics, right, suggest those to TASCO and suggest those early, suggest those now, because they're always, the COO there, Jimmie Kruger, they're always working on the operations side to try to make that happen. So they will, I promise you, they will entertain it, and they will work on it, and they will put feelers out there to try to see if they can make it happen. So well said. You talked about TGCA, right? Texas Girls Coaches Association. You have an upcoming clinic with them out in my old stomping grounds out in El Paso coming up in a few days, Coach. Talk to us about TGCA. Talk to us about the clinic, and coaches need to hear about this. So where can they go to sign up? Tell us about that.
Yeah, TGCA is really starting to try to bring in soccer. It's been an organization it's for girls coaches, and it's really starting to try to bring in soccer. I know 2 years ago I was contacted to be on the soccer committee, and now I'm the chair of the soccer advisory committee. And part of the thing is they want to highlight girls soccer, and start to do things that are more specific to the girls game rather than the total game, which to me a lot of times is the same thing. But there's definitely very specific parts of the game that are different within the girls and the guys game. And part of that's doing the big clinic where they actually have soccer clinicians come in to do the games, college games. And it's more of a question and answer, sit down. It's not a lot of field sessions. But they're also doing the satellite clinics. Like this coming Thursday, we'll be at Bel Air High School in El Paso to do a satellite clinic. And to me, it's about I hear that horn. It'll be to me, it's about taking the things I've learned and answering questions and showing maybe a different way or tweaking a way, but really to get word out that there's an organization that's out there that supports female athletics. And I think that's important. And I think them going to El Paso, which sometimes El Paso, they have to travel everywhere just to play. So to bring stuff to them, to me, is just a really great thing that they're doing. And I know TASCO's done the same thing. They've done some clinics down there. And I think it's really good that we get the whole state involved. And sometimes the limitations of travel for high school coaches is difficult. So to be able to go to a clinic right there in your hometown is pretty cool. And I'm excited about being part of it. You can register for it at TGCA under their satellite clinics. There's a place to register for it. I think I'm doing 3 sessions, one an offensive skills or drill session in the morning on Thursday, and then a defensive session in the afternoon. And then there's a question and answer roundtable Thursday evening where, hey, come ask me questions and we'll talk about it. I'll give you my resources. I'll give you my email. You have a question about how to do this, that, we can talk about it. it's a lot of fun to do that because you really get to where they want to hear rather than, oh, this is a session I'm doing. And they're like, I really did want to learn that, but it's more interactive. So to impart knowledge or just to create that sense of mentorship or somebody that has a question.
Yeah. And, I think so, El Paso area coaches, Far West Texas area coaches jump on that great opportunity. It's a 1-day event, right? And I think you got multiple things going on too, so which is pretty awesome. And now a couple of things, Coach. Do they have to already be TGCA members to attend? How does that work?
No, they can join the clinic and register at the same time and become TGCA members and gets a discount. I think I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you exactly how much it is. It's $60-$70, I think, for the clinic and the registration. But as coaches, it's also another place you can nominate your kids for all state, for academics. There's different things on there that's pretty cool. And to me, the more organizations you're a part of, that way you can get your kids recognized, especially the academic part. These kids, man, they put the time and the effort in, and if they're doing academically, they deserve it. It's just another place to do that, and also to recognize the all-state. And I know the TGCA is looking at doing a junior all-star game like they do all the other sports. So that's something we're looking at and trying to get going. And it's not a conflict with TASCO because TASCO is a senior all-star game. So it's a little different group of kids that can come in and play, and they do that at the clinic. So I think it's important. Like I said, all these coaching organizations are important, and there's a lot of things, a lot of ways to recognize kids, and they're here to support, especially TGCA, really support the women's game and women's athletics. And the clinic down there, I think it has softball, track and field, basketball, soccer. So there's a lot of things going on down there for those coaches that maybe coach multiple sports and come in and get a couple of different sessions in different sports.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome for them to accommodate and offer that as well. So, and thank you to you for making that trip too. So, Far West Texas coaches, El Paso area coaches, jump all over it. That's this Thursday, July 18th at, great choice, by the way, location, Bel Air High School. Great choice. Right. So
you've been there a couple of times, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been there too. Yeah. I was on the, some of my teachers would say I was on the 8-year graduation plan, but yeah, I graduated. But yeah, now, and they can go again to the website, Coach. Is that TGCA website? Is that where they can go to register to get more information?
Satellite clinics. Now, I think there's also on-site registration that morning at 7 a.m.
Okay. And we'll see if we can share something with that too, Coach. We'll get with you after. So looking forward to that. That'll be awesome. You can share some stories with me. There's always something, some kind of story to come out of any event out there. So looking forward to that. And so, yeah, we're talking to Coach Jimmie Lankford, the head women's soccer coach of the Frisco Wakeland Wolverines, as well as the TASCO Region 2 director. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Coach Lankford as we get to pick on him and ask him some rapid-fire questions. We're thrilled to tell you about our world-class partners, AR Shots, your go-to destination for exceptional photography experiences in San Antonio and across all of Texas. As a seasoned professional and published photographer, Alonso Ramirez specializes in capturing the essence of your most memorable moments. From dynamic team media days and live-action game days to heartwarming family gatherings and elegant senior portraits, he makes every shot count. What sets him apart? His unwavering commitment to deliver the best customer service in the Lone Star State. With major international and professional sports event experience, AR Shots' work speaks for itself. He is dedicated to making your photography experience straightforward and enjoyable. So why settle for ordinary when you can experience extraordinary with AR Shots? Contact him today so he can turn your vision into a stunning reality. Check him out at arshots.net as well as on X and Instagram at arshots. All right, and we are back, episode 116 with Coach Jimmie Lankford of Frisco Wakeland. All right, Coach, counterattack time. Time to pick on you, throw some random questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. First one. Strangest thing in your refrigerator right now?
Strangest thing in my refrigerator would probably be the dog food in a can open.
Oh, wow. There you go. So that's, hey, that you're number two, Coach G. Guerreri out of A&M. He was our first to say dog food. So at the time was the strangest thing. So
my dog's spoiled.
All right. Next one. Favorite music artist when you were in high school?
Oh, Lord. Probably Def Leppard.
Hey, that's back-to-back Def Leppards. Last episode was the same thing. Interesting. So,
I know,
right.
I'm just copying them.
Favorite urban legend?
Oh, Buggy Creek Monster.
Okay, I'm going to need an explanation on this one.
Yeah, it's a show that I watched with my son. It's about a Boggy Creek monster that came in Central Texas. Or it could be Goatman's Bridge in Denton too. So,
yeah, I'm going to need more. You're going to have to tell me more about these later. So, I was trying to set you up, Coach, because that was the perfect opportunity to dive into what I affectionately call Frisco Wakeland, right? El Cucuy, right? So, that's y'all's nickname now, and so
that's a pretty good urban legend too. I like that one.
Yeah. So remember, I get royalties on that one. You get the hot royalties, I get the Cucuy royalty. So, but yeah, that is my nickname for you guys for both programs, right? Both the men's and women's programs there at Wakeland. All right. Social media pet peeve.
Social media pet peeve: people that put me and I in front of team.
Okay. Sweet. Favorite number and why?
13.
Another 13.
That's where I wore growing up, and to me it symbolized me, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. 1 and 3.
Ah, there you go. Okay. That's the first time I've heard that one. I like that. So, all right. I think you really are copying the last episode, because I think the previous episode said 13 too. So, all right. So this is kind of an etiquette thing going here. Okay. So kind of a man code thing. All right. Thoughts on socks with Crocs, Birkenstocks, sandals.
Based on my opinion or my wife's?
If she's not anywhere nearby, your opinion. If not,
I'm wearing socks. I hate sweaty feet.
All right. Next one.
She won't go anywhere with me if I'm in socks, but
Yeah. Say smart woman. All right. Current music and if you're a podcast guy too, current music and podcast playlist. We pick up Coach Lankford's phone. What are we going to hear in the rotation?
Probably country western. And then podcast, really the only one I listen to is 50-50, to be honest with you.
Awesome. I like that. Great taste. You can you just redeemed yourself for the socks with the sandals. All right. Next one. Ghosts. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Personal story? Anything? No?
Yeah. It was probably 24, 25 years ago. I was coming out of the bedroom. My wife's coming out of the kitchen. We came around the corner and saw the same thing between us for about 2 seconds, and it was gone.
This is in your current home?
No, it was in the house we lived in when I was in Denton.
Wow.
It was a colonial dress lady.
It was the Mud Creek Monster, whatever you were talking about.
Whatever
you call that.
No, I'd probably had a heart attack right then and died. It's funny. We talked about with my son last week, the Boggy Creek Monster, because he still remembers that from that show we watched.
So you serious? You and your wife saw the exact same thing at the exact same moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And I don't think we were doing anything funky at the time either. So.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. All right. Your first job.
My first real job, I was a machinist at General Dynamics, building F-16 fighters.
Oh, nice. Okay. Was
right
that out in Fort Worth?
High school, I had some other jobs, but that was my first real job.
First real job. Okay. What was your first job?
Building fence in Colorado.
Oh, wow.
For a company. A couple of ex-football players were up there. Ted Allen had a fence company, so I built fence with them.
That'll humble you. That's some tough work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some tough work. All right. Now, as a coach, not as a player, any game day superstitions or rituals?
No, not really. I mean, we try to be consistent. Don't get too excited. The only thing we really do on every game day is feed the kids and watch film, but no rituals or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. In high school, or as you were coming out of high school, you were probably selected most likely to what?
Most likely to get in trouble.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. You and I both. Yeah.
I think the only reason I graduated high school is because of athletics.
Yeah. I think that's a very important piece for a lot of coaches to keep in mind. Very important piece. Yeah.
So I am doing the job I am now because of the things I did in high school. It's penance.
Yeah. Yeah. Most recent binge watch, Netflix, Prime Video, what have you, Hulu. What do you got?
House of Thrones, season 1.
You really did copy the guy. You really did copy the guy from the last episode, didn't you? You really are.
And then the other one, the one right before that was Dark Matter.
Dark Matter. Ooh, which one is that one? I feel like I've heard of that one.
The one who gets kidnapped out of this world, taken to another world, alternate world, parallel world, and he's trying to get back to the world with his regular wife.
Is that on Netflix? Different. What is that on? Yeah, really.
I think it's on Netflix, either Netflix or Apple.
Yeah,
Dark Matter. It's interesting. You got to watch it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I just scrolled through that somehow. Didn't actually. Yeah, the title sounds familiar. So, all right. Bucket list destination, place you want to go before it's a wrap, place you want to go visit, and preferably you can have socks with sandals if you want, Coach. Place you want to go visit.
Scotland, Ireland, and watch soccer games. Both those countries.
Yeah. So anywhere in particular?
No, Dublin would be awesome. I'd love to go there.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, man, the Scotland fans really it really stood out during the Euros, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I wish it would have extended to their team on the field. But yeah, I know. All right, next one. Excuse me. Something you pretend to hate or not really like, but you really secretly love.
Something. Oh gosh, that's a good one. Some of the food my wife makes, I have to give her a hard time. Say, I don't like that, but I really do like it, just because it keeps her on her toes.
Oh, look at that! All right, little bit of payback for the sandals and socks, I guess.
Yeah, it'd probably be pasta. I pretend I don't like it, but I really do. Most of the time, she makes pretty good pasta.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Next one. A coach it can be any sport, doesn't have to be professional. All right, but a coach you admire or pattern yourself after.
Probably I see Curry, my first head coach. Just the way he is with kids and his passion for the game and the things he does for the game is really somebody I look forward up to and admire, and I pattern a lot of things I do after him.
Yeah. Most recently read book you're currently reading or most recently read?
Stephen King, The Gunslinger.
Okay. That's not new, is it? Is that new? No, is it? Is that new? No,
it's an older book. I found the series, and so I was reading the book.
I was about to say I'm not familiar with that one, and I'm familiar with a lot of his work, but not that one. All right, got one more here for you, Coach. All right, so this is kind of a big picture one, kind of perfect world. Think about all the things that we talked about with U.S. Soccer earlier too at the start of this podcast. But all right, so Coach Jimmie Lankford is appointed the soccer czar in America. All right, and you're in charge of everything. Right. What is the very first change you would make in our sport across all of America tomorrow? All levels, first change you make.
The way the academies are run, I would change that. I would put together academies that put the best kids playing with the best groups, with the best coaches, and get rid of all the politics of pulling kids here and there and the false promises they get. Put them together, let them develop together, whether it be one team, two teams, three teams, an age group. To me, if we're going to do MLS and tie to MLS, FC Dallas needs to have the best team in each age group in Dallas. New York has to be their best age group, and then those kids play against each other in that level. And MLS next has kind of got it right, but I think it's still too political. It's not always about putting the best kids together. It's about, who knows who to get what kids there. And I think those academies, if you look at the European academies, the Real Madrids, those kids come in and play soccer together. They go to school there. And if you want to really change things and bring it to that level, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Well said. Coach, you survived. You made it through counterattack pretty quick too. Pretty quick. Awesome. So you pretty much knew what to say right away. So granted, I think you took a lot of the answers from the previous episode, but hey, we won't give you a hard time about that.
I told you 80% of the stuff I have, I stole.
All right, so don't go anywhere. We got one more quick break. We'll be right back with Coach Jimmie Lankford. Looking to step up your social media marketing game? Well, let us tell you about our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches, ADs, SIDs, and club directors who use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part? Anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're going to love this as well, as you are what they call the power user, and this is designed with you in mind as well. And just for being a listener and supporter of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive savings immediately and save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And then there are our great friends at Global Scarves. Both Bill and Kyle, they are the top providers of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. They do so much more, guys, than just scarves. Blankets, beanies, you name it. It's all designed and all customized to your specifications and needs. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or maybe even a supporters group. Simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod and they will be sure to take care of it.
30 p.m.
All right, and we are back, episode 116, with Coach Jimmie Lankford, the head women's soccer coach of the Frisco Wakeland Wolverines, as well as the TASCO Region 2 director. Coach, time to wrap up. Got a couple more things before we get to stoppage time. This is a kind of newer little mini segment here that we've been promoting now, where after I bombard you with many questions, you get to ask me whatever you want. So fire away. You get one.
One question. Oh, gosh. I have to stop and think about that one. You should have given me a heads up on that one. What do you think the value
it's like the pasta, man. It's like the pasta. Keep you on your toes.
What do you think the value of the different social media outlets and the different things that are going on through Twitter and the 50/50 podcast? What do you think the value of those are to coaches as opposed to 5 or 10 years ago, where there wasn't as much information out as there is now?
Yeah. Well, first things, very good question, actually. I think, so first thing, definitely don't want to toot our own horn, because there are many outlets out there, right? Beyond just the 50/50 podcast, whether it's from, Lethal Coach used to be Lethal Soccer, talk about 6A here in San Antonio, believe it or not, we're spoiled with the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, the 6A, just to name a few, 6A Soccer, you have Soy Saf, just to name a few, right? But then you have, and then you have what TASCO is doing on social media, all these different platforms are providing all this different coverage, which I think in and of itself are critical to what, just as you said, right? Kind of a question I asked a little bit earlier is like, it's important to what we're all collectively trying to do in terms of growing our sport in our state, because we feel like, from the big media perspective, your traditional media perspective, you mentioned David Hinojosa earlier. We have him here in San Antonio, right? The San Antonio Express News. And you're right. He does a phenomenal job, but he is one guy trying to do the job of probably who knows how many, covering all kinds of different sports right throughout the year. He's always at it. So, he's just one example. And I think the hard part is, and you're right, it's already, when you go back 5-10 years ago to now, the coverage has always been lacking for our sport. It just has, right? It just has. But now what you're seeing is a lot of these, the big, I call it the big media, your traditional media, right? They're making cuts, right? They're making cuts left and right. I know Houston Chronicle just let like 2 or 3 of their guys
Cut
go.
Everybody, I think. Right.
I know Dallas, up in the DFW area, they just let a couple of people go. So it becomes harder and harder and harder. There's another one here, one who was kind of a product of that and who still does phenomenal work that I want to give a shout out to here in the greater San Antonio area is Terrence Thomas, right? For years covered, worked for the San Antonio Express News, and he's just a great historian of the game. So I think from our perspective, what we're trying to do from the perspective of us, the 50/50 podcast, we're just one little, I guess, cog, right, if you will. We're proud to be part of it. We're happy to be part of it, a small part of it, and telling the stories of, kind of as that scarf says behind you, Coach. Tell the stories about the people and for the people. That's who this platform is dedicated to, right? So whether you're a high school coach, whether you're a high school student athlete, and you're just, and you just want to play soccer because you love it and you want to play with your friends, represent your community. Maybe you want to play at the next level. All right. Can we help promote you at the college level? All right. We want to be able to do that too, cover the college game as best as we can. With college sports, it's always a little different just because from the perspective of they have their own sports information directors, they have their own, insulated kind of insular coverage. So we're trying to do it from the outside and just provide whether it's schedules, whether it's upcoming games, whether it's ID camps for college coaches. We love having you on here. We've had the likes of Randy Waldrum on here more than once. We've had the likes of Coach G. Guerreri on here, and they've just been such great, humble leaders and so giving of their time to join us as well and to tell the stories about their programs, their players, and for the student athletes and as well for the parents, right? The parents that are out there that want to listen to this who don't know where to begin. Because when this podcast started, it was about unifying coaches. It was about unifying our sport and a place to, and for parents, a place to go, right? A place to go for information, right? To hear about different programs. So whether you're, you listen to it in the intro of this podcast, right? So, from the 915 to, to H-Town to Houston, it doesn't matter. Or, from the plains, from, Amarillo all the way down to the valley, doesn't matter, right? We're trying to do our best to tell the stories of the state. So from the high school coach's perspective, be accessible, right? We want to tell the story about you and your program because nothing frustrates me more than a coach that says, hey, why don't we ever get coverage? Or why don't we ever get this? But then when we try to reach out to some of them in terms of coming on the podcast, doing an interview with them, telling a story, some sort of highlighted coverage, they can't return emails, they can't return, messages, or they're just not interested, right? So, and we can't do anything about that. We can't do anything about that. So, the big thing I think so whether you're a young coach and you're just entering our profession, or you're an older established coach, right? An experienced coach, right? We won't say older, but an experienced coach. Part of your job, right, is my opinion. Part of your job, part of my job, part of our jobs are to champion for our student athletes, champion our programs, advocate for our student athletes and our programs. And you're right. So whether they're killing it in the classroom, killing it on the field, and they're a multi-sport athlete, or they want to play at the college level, right? That is part of our job. It's not just showing up, practice, games, wins, and that's it, right? So the social media piece, back to your question, the social media piece is a part of that, right? There's a lot of great positive power that comes with social media when used correctly, right? When used correctly. So everybody likes to hark to the negative, right? But it's a great tool as well. Here we are 3.5 years now into the podcast, and it kind of started, like I said, started by accident, and it started at the peak of the pandemic. And I'd like to think I take pride in getting to know coaches such as yourself, right? Getting to know the stories and being able to tell the stories, excuse me, being able to tell the stories about your program and being able to, to the point to where you cover them and you start to develop nicknames for some of these programs, right? Because of their characteristics, like you guys, like El Cucuy, right? They're just the boogeyman. You guys just, Frisco, Wakeland is always going to be there, always going to be around. You can't get rid of them, right? The tradition, the culture. And these are things that I think it's important for our state to hear, not just because, oh, hey, they're the latest team to win the state championship, so let's cover them. No, it's about more than that. So, so just a little bit, sorry to get on a rant there, but
no, I like it.
But yeah, I think to answer your question, it's so whether you're doing it as a head coach or you're having an assistant, a quality assistant doing it, but social media, telling the story, advocating for your program, marketing your program, marketing your student athletes, and especially those that want to play at the next level, right? This is why we're here, and we're here to assist. We're here to help. We're here to mentor along the way as well. So, yeah, I think I don't know quite if I answered that, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, that's why I kind of asked. I do appreciate all you do. And I think it's important for people to get out and talk about their programs and show the successes and even the not successes. It's just everybody goes through ups and downs, and the more you learn from other people, the better. And podcasts like this and the different social media outlets, it just gives you an ability to learn and to see other people and the struggles they go through and possibly help out or even ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff. And, and I will add to that, part of what gives me a lot of pride is just seeing more coaches taking pride in being high school coaches and being Texas high school soccer coaches, right? Because I think it's important. I think it matters. I think it matters more than I think sometimes we think it does, or when we have, because if you've been coaching long enough, you can kind of get the feeling at any given time that it is a thankless job, right? But I always tell people that we do it for the outcome, right? Not the income. We do it in terms of the outcome
That's the truth
of our student athletes. Yeah. So, and they deserve our best every day. So awesome. Great stuff, Coach. Going to wrap up with you. Stoppage time. This is an opportunity where we do our final thoughts, anything, shout outs, thank yous, anything as it relates to the game, anything that's on your mind. If you want to do another plug for the TGCA clinic on Thursday as well, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to thank TGCA, give me the opportunity to go El Paso and the things they're doing for girls sports. TASCO for all the things they do for soccer. I want to thank my assistant coaches. They make a lot of things that we do here possible just because of their knowledge and their dedication. The clinic in El Paso on Thursday, I'm really excited about, just to get to meet people I haven't met before possibly and talk soccer. I love to talk soccer, and whether it's the program or the drills or the things we do, but those things are fun. So giving that opportunity is awesome. Thank my family for supporting me, and told my wife to be a 30-minute podcast. So she's probably wondering what the heck's going on, but you know what? That's what we do. This is because we love the game. We want to give back to the game. We want other people to feel the same passion. And so when you get around people and you encourage them to do that, or you see people that have the same passion it builds a drive in you that wants to continue to do it and go forward. And you start to see these kids in high school, especially, they graduate and they go on. And I've got multiple of my ex-players now that are coaching, and they see them and it's excited to see them coaching. And I referee as well, and see those kids come, oh, do you remember me from so-and-so? And they're still playing at the age of 35 or 40. It just shows that the impact you've had on lives of these kids and the things that we do is so important as high school coaches. And don't forget the fact that it's the wins and losses are fun, but the outcomes you see 10, 15, 20 years when you see that kid who played for you, now their kids are playing or they're coaching, it is so important. And all those players and coaches and kids, and it's just, I want to thank all of them for the things that they've given me in life and the memories they've given me as well.
Great stuff. Awesome. Couldn't have said it any better. Thank you again, Coach. And I'm going to use my rant from earlier as my stoppage time piece, so I won't go into anything further. Apologies to your wife. Blame it on me, Coach. Blame it on me.
It's worth it. I thank you as well. What you're doing is awesome for the sport.
I'm on that. Thank you. I'm still on that Copa America final timetable, right? Running behind on everything. So
yeah, I locked the door so they couldn't come in.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, hey, to our listeners, to our supporters, thank you again. Really appreciate you. Go on there, like, rate, subscribe. Trying to grow make sure you like this episode on YouTube and share as well. Subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. You can find us again on YouTube, the 50_50 podcast, on Instagram Live at 50_50 podcast, and then on Twitter or Twix, X, whatever we want to call that, at 50_50 pod. So thank you again for Coach Jimmie Lankford. I am Coach Hector Cano, and you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by the 50/50 podcast network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.